Hey, my name's Izzy. This is Rolling Fortune Cards coming at you with another Magic the Gathering video. This time we're going over the big score. We're gonna hit them pretty quickly. There's not a lot, and we're not going over the reprints in the other sidecar stuff. These guys, whatever they're called. It's also big score. Breaking news is what it's called. Yeah, we're not going over the breaking news cards. We're just doing the big score cards, which isn't a lot, so we'll hit them quickly. A collector's cage is 1 and white for an artifact with hideaway 5, so when it enters the battlefield, you look at the 5 cards library. Exile 1 face down, put the rest on the bottom of the library at random order. Pay 1 and tap it to put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Then, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may play the exile card without paying its mana cost. This is seen play slightly in collector's cage decks, which is a deck upon itself, which is hilarious. It actually made its own deck, and you might think, why don't anyone talk about that? And the answer is because that requires people to actually communicate. Collector's Cage is fun because you're just exiling Emrakul and then recasting it, or Imara's Call. The rest is just your generic Boros, or I guess Grixis outline. You can also cast the other side of Valaki. So you just, I think it's an interesting idea to run it. And I think it's interesting and fun. So I like that it's there. Pioneer is also running it in Boros Convoke at 4. It just gives you a nice way to get a big guy out that is convoked, even if you don't have the convoke. And look, okay, Mono White Weenies is running it in Pioneer at 4. What are you gonna get with it in Mono White Emperor's Call? The card that you're running as a land, but can also just be cast for free. And any other cards you get isn't bad for Hideaway. It's seeing play. I think it'll continue to see play because it's a way to cheat stuff out, and it's an easy way to get Hideaway triggered, right? Hits the field, buffs your stuff by +1/+1 counters. Hardened Scales likes it. You can cheat something out that you would normally run in your deck anyway as a high end. So I like it. In Commander, it's great. If you're running a white deck, I'd probably just toss it in there. It's an easy way to get something big out. Grand Abolisher is a reprint. It's in all the formats. It sees play in CDH mostly, but also in a few other formats that Pioneer and stuff. I think it was in Pioneer prior, because I think the original print or the last print was Commander 2014, or Magic. Actually, maybe it wasn't. Did it just get added to Pioneer? Let me check. I'll be right back. Yeah, this is the first time it's been added to Pioneer. So if you care about Pioneer, that's actually pretty cool to see that it's in Pioneer now as just a way to prevent your opponents from interacting with you. I like that. I think it's interesting. It's always going to be a good card and a good reprint. All-Tech Meter Weaver? Is this? No, I think that's just a cool art for it. It is from here. So, whenever you cast a creature spell, choose one. Create a 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature token, or create a token that's a copy of target artifact token you control. I like this. I think this is cool. In creature-based decks, in Commander, if you're running this card, if you have a lot of creatures, you can just be here's my gnome, and then, let's just make a token copy of my gnome, and then, or just keep making gnomes. But also, here's more treasures. I'm going to make a copy of my artifact here, of my Soul Ring, and then every time I cast a creature, I can keep making artifact copies of it. I'm not seeing play anywhere else. It's just a Commander deck card, honestly. I do like it. I think it's interesting just to get that nice card advantage every time you cast a creature. And then, you can be busted if you're making token copies of other artifacts. Rest in Peace was reprinted, which I think also means it's finally in Pioneer. So, Legacy, Pioneer is finally using it here. Oh, no, it's been in Pioneer. That's for 2021. So, yeah, it's good. Interesting in Standard. Just as a graveyard hate piece. The Mono Black one does it better because you can play it for free, but Rest in Peace is a good reprint. Okay, we're gonna talk about some of the most expensive cards here. Esoteric Duplicators, 2 and a blue for a clue, artifact clue. Whenever you sacrifice Esoteric Duplicator or another artifact, you may pay 2 generic. If you do, at the beginning of your next end step, create a token that's a copy of that artifact. Pay 2, sacrifice it, draw a card. Not seen play. Great in commander decks, like, yeah, because if you, any commander deck that can sacrifice artifacts and just get them back, it's not bad. I like Esoteric Duplicator in commander, that's about it. But these two are gross. Simulacrum Synthesizer is a $35 card already. Here's the thing. When it enters the battlefield, you scry 2. That's already fine. But whenever another artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters the battlefield that you control, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. It's in Legacy, Vintage, Modern, Standard. I think the only thing I don't see it in here is Pioneer, because it just doesn't have a way to abuse it yet. The reason this card's broken is Affinity and blue artifacts and Vintage and Legacy, but also, and you don't see it here necessarily, any deck that's running Goblin Engineer loves this card, because you can just get a 3-drop out for free for 1 with Goblin Engineer from your graveyard, which then triggers it. And then World Waker Helm is like a $3 card, but when it enters the battlefield, if you would create 1 or more artifact tokens instead, create those tokens plus an additional map token. Pay 1 in a blue, tap it, create a token that's a copy of target artifact token you control. It's in Modern Urza. Yeah, like, the whole point of it is that you make a token with Urza. Cool. What am I gonna do with this Urza token? Oh, I'm just gonna keep tapping the map for Urza. I think it'll see more play as more stuff comes out for Modern Horizons 3, but I really like this card in a lot of formats, just because being able to just go, I make a treasure. Like this triggers off of the monkey, I forget its name, Rograk. And it triggers off of anything else that just makes a clue token or an artifact or a food token or anything, and you get a map token. And the map token's not really what you care about. What you care about here is the ability to just sacrifice it or get things something bigger. I like that. It's a 3-drop, so it works with the other one. Excuse me. But overall, I think in Commander this also just is great, because if you're ranking artifact tokens, put this in there, make maps, use the maps, and you can sacrifice the map to explore to make your commander bigger, and you can make token copies of target artifact token you control. So again, if you make a token copy of an artifact, you can make a token copy of it. So all 3 of these are great in their own ways. Green's Gambit is interesting. For 3 and a black, you get a enchantment with whenever it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, gain 6 life, create 3 2/1 black creature tokens with flying. At the beginning of your end step, you discard a card, lose 2 life, and sacrifice a creature. When it leaves the battlefield, you discard 3 cards, lose 6 life, and sacrifice 3 creatures. No. Just no. The idea here is to be greedy. I think, like, if this was a 3-drop, you might be seeing it a little better. But to be able to go, draw 3, gain 6, and get 3 2/1s, if you could abuse that right away, regardless of if this dies, like, just being able to push out that, because using this to do that, if this just read 4, draw 3 cards, discard 3 cards, you might use it, right? So if you have a way to sacrifice this and just go, okay, I'm gonna draw 3, discard 3, because you just sack the 3 bats and lose 6 life after gaining 6, so you don't lose anything there. You're just drawing 3, discarding 3. That's where this card, I think, has a play, and I think people need to realize that, and that's where you'll see this play. I think, like, even in Commander, like, if you can just sack the enchantment and just draw 3, lose 3, trigger 3 death triggers, could be useful. I think that could be pretty decent, honestly. Oh wait, is it? Oh yeah, I checked. Yeah, it's not. Okay. Harvest of Misery. This is 3 and 2 black for a 5/4 spirit with menace. And when it enters the battlefield, other creatures get -2/-2 till end turn. So it's a nice board wipe as it enters. Also, its art is awesome, and the other art is also awesome. I love it. Pay 1 and a black. Discard Harvest Misery. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end turn. Legacy. Legacy, Standard, Pioneer. No Modern at this point. Well, actually, maybe. Let me see. Click on Modern, please. No Modern. But, like, Rakdos Scam is running... I think it's sideboarding. Yeah, sideboard's one of these. Which is fine. And Bug Midrange in Legacy is running one of these. It's a very good, like, okay, Pioneer. Kurg's Falls, right? I don't know exactly what this deck is. This deck looks stupid. It's in here. Yeah, it's in as a one of. So this is for all intents and purposes, it's a 2-drop that does -2/-2 to a creature as a discard ability, so it can't be countered. That's useful, okay? But if you do cast it, you get a 5/4 with menace and you board wipe for the most part, which is pretty cool. Like, I think that's useful. I like it in Commander as a nice 5-drop board wipe to kill most small things, and then also as a nice removal spell if needed. So I think it's interesting. Hostile Investigators 3 and a black for a 4/3 Ogre Rogue Detective. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards a card. Whenever one or more players discard one or more cards, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn, and it's worth a lot of money. So where is it being played? Standard and Pioneer. Is it getting anywhere else? Nope. Yeah. Not really. But why is it seeing play in Rakdos midrange? Because it's a good card that hurts them for discarding. Or it doesn't hurt them, but makes them. But Mono Black Waste Knot, yeah, loves this card at 2. Why? Well, because did you read what Waste Knot does? It's discard. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards a card. When one or more players discard one or more cards, investigate. Yeah, it's here as a discard thing. You discard a card, you get to investigate. It enters, makes them discard, which is a +1 to you, and you investigate, which you can then sack to draw 2. So, like, it does a lot. If you're running a discard deck in Commander, I'd toss this in there. I think that's definitely where you want it to be. And if you're running like a Flicker Clue deck, I'd put that in there too. So, I like it in there. It's also a detective, which is kind of cool. Generous Plunderer is 1 in a red for 2/2 human rogue, and with menace. And then, whenever at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a treasure token. When you do, target opponent creates a tapped treasure token. When it attacks, it deals damage to defending player equal to the number of artifacts they control. Okay, this card is great. Why? You're not seeing the play. Okay, but here's the thing. So it hits the field for 2. It's a 2/2 with menace. At your upkeep, you get a treasure, and your opponent gets a tap treasure. Okay, that's cool. Ramping each turn, fixing your color. It attacks and deals damage to the defending player equal to the number of artifacts they control. Here's what's useful. Sideboarding this is where I think it might eventually see some play. You sideboard this in Modern. Oh, I'm going up against a food deck, or I'm going up against a equipment deck, or an artifact deck, that artifact matters deck, or affinity, right? Sideboard this in, cast it. If it survives till your next turn, or if you're running haste enablers or something, you pass, it comes back to your turn. Oh, look, they have a treasure now that's tapped that they can't sack, and they've got like 6 creatures on the field. Swing with my menace guy. It's gonna die probably into affinity, but it also is gonna deal 6 damage to their face. Like, cool, that could win you the game and red deck wins. So I think this will eventually see play in like red deck wins in sideboards against artifact decks. why do I care about killing your artifacts if I can just win? And that's what this says. This says, hey, instead of sideboarding things to destroy their artifacts, just abuse their artifacts against them. Run this card and just hit them. Maybe run away to give them artifacts, more artifacts. I think it's interesting, and I also think that if we start running into ways to give opponents like junk and stuff, what's that one card? I didn't find the card, or I found the card, didn't do exactly what I thought, but if you can find a way to give your opponents a lot of artifacts, this card could just be like, oh, you have 20 artifacts, you die. That's not bad. Like, I think it's interesting running multiple of these. I think you could find a way to do that, and actually, I might do that. I'm gonna duplicate this tab and deal with that a different time, but I think that could be interesting for a modern deck. Maybe Pioneer deck, but Legion Extruder is 1 in a red for a artifact when it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target, so 2 to deal 2 damage is great. And then pay 2 and tap it, sacrifice another artifact, create a Theory 3 colorless golem artifact creature token. Pioneer for artifact aggro. You're running 1 of them because you can sack like your Smuggler's Copter or some other artifact aggro, and it's Smuggler's Copter the reason why it's artifact. Or you make a map token, you make a, that's an artifact. Yeah, you can sack them to make 3/3s on your opponent's turn. That's the thing. So, okay, cool. I want to get a 3/3 out. Let's do that. Let's sack my food token or my map token or my blood token and make that. You don't want to run too many of it because it doesn't do enough. But 2 damage to any target is also burn, so I like it. I think it's interesting in those regards. I don't think it's going to see much play other places. Legacy is running it in red-white. I'm assuming... Oh, 2 copies of it. Okay. Yeah, because it's another way to sacrifice something, which is useful. But being able to sacrifice something and then also make a 3/3 isn't awful. Just as a way to win the game with control. Yeah, just Pioneer and Legacy is running it. I like it. I think it's an interesting card. I think in Commander, you'll see this card play in any deck that needs to sacrifice artifacts. Oh, cool. Now I get a 3/3 golem. That's not bad. Great to get it. And it triggers like another ETB effect or something. Memory Vessel is 3 and 2 red for a artifact. Tap it. Exile Memory Vessel. Each player exiles the top 7 cards of the library. Until your next turn, players may play cards they exiled this way. And they can't play cards from their hand. Activate only as a sorcery. So, the way this works is, to some people, a little complicated, so I'll explain. You play this card for 5, you tap it and exile. Not the turn you do it, probably. You want to do this, and then next turn, when you have all your mana open, tap it, exile it, and then each player exiles the top 7. Until your next turn, so you do it on your turn, so you get a full rotation here. Players may play cards exiled with this card. Okay, so you're like, cool, we exiled the top 7. These are my new hands. It's your new hand, and you can play it. Your other hand can't be played. Cards from their hand. Activate only as a sorcery, so you got to do it on your turn. So on your turn, you do it. Boom, bada bang. You have 7 new cards. Play your hand out, do all of them. By that rotation, then everyone can use their hand again. But you do exile 7 cards, so anything they don't use is gone. So, excuse me. Counter spells have to be used in that rotation. A lot of other things. But it does draw you 7 deep, which is useful. It does give your opponents more interaction, so that's bad. But drawing yourself 7 deep is actually really good. So I enjoy it. In the right deck, where you really need to draw 7 deep. I don't think it's seeing play anywhere because it's bad. Yeah, it's a 5-drop that just... Some people comparing it to Memory Vial or Memory Jar, but Memory Jar discards, which is where it's good because everyone's discarding cards, and that's just awful. So I like it. I think it's fun, and the right decks where you really just need to dig that 7 more to find your win con. Molten Disruption is 1 in a red for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature control, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste until end of turn, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. CEDH is running this card. Why is it running this card? Copy target instant. Create a token that's a copy target artifact or creature. Because you're making a copy of your Dockside Extortionist. And because it goes infinite, like, with everything. Kirk and Jakushin was great, but, like, okay, why is it being ran in this deck? I don't understand. Why? Well, because it goes infinite with dual caster mage. And because, like there's a lot of cards here to go through, but the idea is another ETB is really good. That's the idea. Dockside Extortionist, second copy. Goblin Sharpshooter, second copy. Goes infinite with dual caster mates. Works off Spellseeker to grab another card. There's just like Atali, Prime Conqueror. Yeah, it is just good in CEDH. I don't like foresee it. Like, okay, Legacy. Legacy's got one use of it in Echoes of Eons deck that's running 4 of them. What does Echoes of Eons do? That card's banned now, so you can't actually use that. But what does the Echoes of Eons deck do? It runs Echoes of Eons to shuffle your deck back. But this just makes copies. It's supposed to make copies of the Goblin, so you can't really do that anymore. But it also wins with Dual Caster Mage. Again, the way that works is you create a token of copy target creature or artifact you control. So while Dual Caster Mage is on the field, you Molten Disrupt, duplication it. It enters the battlefield, sees Molten Duplication, copies, and just makes an infinite amount of them, all with haste. So, very good in that regard. And then you can also just get another ETB off another good cards. That's why it's being played there. I think it could see play in other decks, but like there's not enough great ETBs that you really want to copy in other decks to push it, or in the other formats. But if you're running a deck with great ETBs, or your commander even has a good ETB, do that. It's great. Territory Forge is 4 in a red for a artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, exile target artifact land. Territory Forge has all activated abilities of all exiled cards. Of the exiled card. It not seeing play. So you exile target artifact or land, and then it just becomes that artifact or land. So the idea of here, I guess, is to steal your opponent's card. Like, I'm gonna remove that annoying land. Cool, now I have that land. Or I'm gonna remove that annoying artifact. I'm gonna pay 5 to exile your Soul Ring, and now I have a 5-drop Soul Ring. Cool. There's other options to do that, but you don't really want to hit your own, because like you already have it. You're not making a copy of it, so this is literally like, does my opponent have a good artifact or land? If not, bad. I think this is a bad card. Relies too much on your opponent. Ancient Cornucopia is 2 in a green for a artifact. When you cast a spell that's 1 or more colors, you may gain 1 life for each of that spell's colors. Do this only once each turn. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Pioneer and Niv Mizzet Reborn, because Niv Mizzet Reborn likes to play 2-color spells, and that means 2-color spells allows me to go, oh look, I gained 2 life. And in Modern, 4-color control, oh look, I'm running multiple multi-color spells, I'm gonna gain life, and it also ramps me. That's where the cards see play. The Niv Mizzet Reborn Pioneer decks and Modern 4-color cards. 4-color decks. So, you might wonder, is it good in Commander? Yes, it's a 3-drop artifact that taps for a color that triggers something else. If you're running a monocolor deck, don't run this, but in green decks where you're actively running cards that are multicolor spells, so the more colors you run, the better chance this card's great. If you can get, basically, if you can get an upside, if you're in a green deck and you can get an upside from this spell, this part, so that each turn you gain some type of advantage, then run it. Otherwise, there's easier ones that don't cost a green to cast. Bristle Bud Farmer is 2 and 2 green for a 5/5 plant druid with trample. And when Bristle Bud Farmer enters the battlefield, you make 2 food tokens. And when Bristle Bud Farmer attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. Did not see him play, guys. Sorry. But it is a plant, so in a plant deck you'll see play. And in the druid deck you'll see play. And guess what? In commander food decks, you're going to put this in there. great in that deck. And in Commander food decks that mill, even better. Yeah, that's about it. I think it like food decks like this, food mill decks like this. I don't think there's a food mill. Well, yeah, there is. So the food mill deck like this. That's where I'd put this. Omnipath Journey is 3 and a green for an enchantment. When Omnipath Journey enters the battlefield, search your library for 5 land cards that have different names. Exile them, then shuffle. At the beginning of your end step, choose a card at random, exile with Omnipath Journey, and put it onto the battlefield tab. This is ramp for... what's funny is if you're in a 5-color deck, you can just choose 5 basics, and then each turn get a basic. But you can also choose any land, just with a different name. It's good. It's not going to see play anywhere else other than Casual Commander, because that's where it's good. Like, 4-drop, by your end turn, not only do you remove 5 lands from your deck, which is 5% reduction to your deck, each turn you're going to get one of those lands, which is good. You put it on the battlefield tab so you don't get advantage right then, but I think overall that's where it's useful. In a multicolored deck, or any deck that just needs an extra land each turn, this will do that for you, and I like that. I enjoy that. So I think if you're in green, toss the card in the deck. It can't hurt you, even in mono green. Sandstorm Selvage is 2 and a green for a 1/1 human artificer. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token, and you can pay 2 to put and tap it to put a 1/1 counter on each creature token you control. They can trample until end of turn. So Pioneer Gruul Aggro is running it, because you get to put a 1/1 counter on each creature token you control. So if you're running the tokens, that's good. Commander-wise, I guess I like it in Flicker decks, and I like it in token decks. So if I'm running a Commander deck that cares about tokens, I'll run this. If I'm running a Commander deck that cares about tokens and 1/1 counters, even better. Other than that, it is decent mid-range card. It hits the field, you get a 3/3. So even if you pop this 1/1, you still have your 3/3 to worry about. If you don't worry about it, you can keep buffing them. And if you're running 4 of these, it hits the field, you make another one, and then the double up buff them. I wonder if you could find a Pioneer deck. I mean, yeah, Pioneer did use this in Gruul Aggro, right? Because, yeah, 2 of them. Because, do you make tokens? Yes. The Esker's Chariot works, and the Hutsman's Redemption works. Both make tokens. So, and this makes, yeah, and your sarcasm. So you kind of have to build it a little bit more around it, but being able to do that, and then overall just, yeah, there we go. Overall, just being able to have a nice mid-range card isn't bad. Would I run this as a one-of in any Commander deck? Probably not. Doesn't do enough. You really need a token deck to care about it. But if you are, I'd toss it in there. Vault-Born Tyrant is 5 and 2 green for a 6/6 dinosaur with trample. When it or another creature with power 4 or greater into the battlefield under control, you gain 3 life and draw a card. When it dies, if it's not a token, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Not only is this hard to remove, it's great in a power 4 or greater deck. So it hits the field, and right away you're gaining 3 and drawing a card for 7. That's expensive. Fair. Okay? Green doesn't care if it's expensive. You can either cheat it out, or you can get it out for really quickly, or you can ramp it out pretty fast. Then all your other 4 power creatures hit the field, you're drawing cards, you're gaining 3 life. And then if it dies, you still just get a copy of it. Pioneer's running it in creativity decks, right? Because it's creativity. Of course they are. 4 of them, dude. It's gross. What is a creativity deck? It's this card, and it's the card that they hit. Because a 6/6 with trample is gross. And then hitting this guy with creativity and going, oh, look. Because, yeah, oh, look, I get this really nice thing. And then if it dies, oh, look, I get to, get a second one of it. Very good in that. I don't think it'll be anywhere else. Oh, Fire of Inventions is also running it, because of course it is, because it's a very easy big guy. So I quite enjoy Vault-Born Tyrant in a lot of decks. If you're paying power 4 or greater, I'd run it. Otherwise, I'd question it in green, but if you're in mono green Stompy, toss it in there. It's a good dinosaur card. It's a lot of things about this card is good, especially power 4 or greater. The multicolor spells, loot, the key to everything, is interesting. So it's green, blue, red for a 1/2 Beast Noble with Ward 1 and At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top X cards of your library. Where X is the number of card types among the non-land permanents you control, other non-land permanents you control. You may play those cards this turn. So the idea here is you can't include itself, but if you have like an artifact, a creature, a second creature, an enchantment, let's just say, and a land. Or non-land, sorry. So like an artifact, creature, and enchantment. You know, yeah, Planeswalker and battles also count. But like if you have those three, the most common, you could exile 3 at your upkeep, and you can play them until your end turn. So that's just good card advantage every single rotation. There is like a CDH style, and Fires of Vintage have tried it. I think it's a little slow. Maybe there could be a Tamir deck in Pioneer where like you set it up right to be able to get that card advantage nicely. You're running enough like 1-drop cards where X is the number of card types among non-land permanents you control. Oh, I'm running artifact creatures and enchantment creatures that are cheap that I can get on the field, or just even just artifact creatures. Being able to exile the top 2 cards of your library each rotation with them wouldn't be bad. I think it might see play in the future in a control deck where you can get that advantage, but like it's slow. And then Pest Control is black or white and a black for destroy all non-land permanents with mana value 1 or less. Cycle 2. Legacy and Vintage. Legacy and Vintage and Legacy and oh yeah, Vintage and Legacy and Vintage and Legacy and Vintage and not CEDH, but Legacy and Vintage. Why? Because you destroy all their 1s and 0s and like Esper aggro guys, like just hit them hard and destroy all their crap. Hit them hard, destroy their crap. Like it's a 3 of, because if you're going up against a deck that like Stoneblade, yeah, where is it? 1 of here and 2 of here, because you know you are gonna run again up against commanders that are cards that like decks that play 0 drops and 1 drops, and this just gets rid of them all. I don't gotta worry about your stuff anymore. Your Mana Crypts, your Lion's Eye Diamonds, your other Moxes, all that stuff gone. It's just gone. And I don't need to use that against you? Cool, cycle. Everything about this card is great there. I even think CDH might see it played at some point, just as like a quick removal. I like it in my CDH deck, because I run Orzhov, and I think that might be useful. So if I can pull one, or buy one at some point, like it. Lost Jitte is interesting. This is 1 for a legendary artifact equipment. When equipped creature deals combat damage, put a charge counter on Lost Jitte. It's only 1, not 2. Remove a charge counter from it, choose 1. Untap target land, so that's ramp. Target creature can't block this turn, that makes it easier to hit them. Put a 1/1 counter on equipped creature. Again, this is just good. It's dual commanders running it, pioneers running it in artifact aggro, just 2 of them, because it's just a nice thing to equip and give them a little buff. I don't know of anything other than... Oh yeah, Hardened Scales has attempted to run it as a 1 of. I like it. It's not as good as Umezawa's Jitte, because I think this is the same Jitte, but like not as good. And I think that's him finding it. Like it's just different because it's been lost for so long. But I think it's an interesting idea. That's what I'm going to say. I think it's interesting. I think it might eventually see more play. So you hit them in any deck that like is hitting, like you put this on Ragavan, right? You hit them. Okay, cool. Now it's got 1. So now I can either I can untap a land so I can do something. I can next turn make you not be able to block my creature, or I can buff my creature. It's okay. I think Hardened Scales probably has the best bet to see it played in Modern. And in Commander, I like it in Commander. I think it's fine in any equipment deck, especially if you can proliferate. Because mind you, you can use these effects multiple times. So, Lotus Ring is 3 generic for an equipment. Indestructible. So it's indestructible. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has vigilance. And tap, sacrifice this creature, add 3 mana of any 1 color. Nothing. I think this might break eventually, but it's not great. So 3 generic, 3 equips. That's 6 total in order to get 3 mana of any color. Does give +3/+3 until end of turn, and this cool version is like $75 because it's cool. But how are you going to use it? Okay, here's how you use it, right? You got to equip it for free. If you can equip Lotus Ring for free and then tap the creature and sack it, so I think eventually maybe like there will be some modern decks that are running like equipment decks that'll run this, where you go like put it on field for 1. It has equip 0. Sack my creature, draw, or swing with my new. Again, I'm gonna just use Ragavan as an example. Swing with my 5/4 Ragavan, hit you, then tap and sacrifice my creature, gain 3 mana, and do something with that 3 mana. So, it's not bad. I think it's interesting. I think it's useful. You just have to really work with it to make it work, and I think you could. I think it can. Commander-wise, unless you're cheating it out, I don't like it. Like, paying 3, on turn 3 you play it, does nothing. Turn 4 you equip it, and now on turn 4 you go up 3 mana, right? So on turn 4, you're at like 7 mana, and if you ramped, maybe 8 mana. So if you're trying to get your commander out, I think Lotus Ring could be useful. Nexus of Becoming is a 6-drop for an artifact. At the beginning of combat on your turn, draw a card. Then you may exile an artifact or creature card from your hand. If you do, create a tokenless copy of the exile card, except it's a 3/3 golem artifact creature in addition to its other types. So you do get an extra draw at combat, and you get to cheat your big guys. So any big creature or big artifact with good card effects, or a creature with good ETB effects or attack triggers, that's what this is for. Yeah, like Vintage has tried it in Golos. Because you can cheat Golos out with it. So that's not bad. And like Magda, Brazen Outlaw has tried it. Just to like, again, cheat something out quickly to try to win. So, or get something out that's not an artifact. So get your stuff. So it's niche. I think best seen in like casual Commander to just go like, hey, my 10/10 or my 10-drop is now out on the field. There's a 3/3, right? But I get like the destroy effect. Sort of. Wealth and Power is great. 3-drop for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and protects from instants and sorceries, which makes it very hard to kill in a lot of formats. When a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you make a treasure, and then when you cast your next enter sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose 2 new targets for the copy. To get the full advantage of this deck, your Legacy Hammer Time tried it. A lot of like Hammer Times and stuff might try playing it and stuff in Modern and Legacy, but in Commander, like the idea here is like, you're probably running instant and sorceries in your deck, so being able to get something off of it, like, oh, I ran the Sword of Wealth and Power. It's harder to kill my commander. I hit you with it for more damage, and then like I hit you, and now I make a treasure. The one thing is it doesn't give you protection from creatures, so you can't sneak in. But like if someone's open, you hit them, and you get to get a treasure. You also get to like cast your next ramp spell for more, so for double. So. Torpor Orb is a reprint, but it's a good reprint because the previous reprint was expensive. So, more expensive back then, so that's good. I think it also finally hits Pioneer, so it's finally being able to be used in Pioneer. It's finally able to be used in Pioneer, which is really cool in my opinion for control decks, because creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. So that's really good in control decks for Pioneer. 3 more cards here. Transmutation Font is 5 for an artifact. Tap, create your choice of a blood token, a clue token, and a food token. And pay 3 and sacrifice 3 artifact tokens with different names. Search your library for an artifact card, put it in the battlefield, then shuffle. No formats. I think Pioneer's got the best bet with this because they've already got like a blood token deck. Being able to like get a blood token and then like run things that just happen to make food and clue tokens that are good, and then sack them to this card for like, you play for 5, next turn 3, and then drop like a really big artifact from your deck could be really scary. And in Commander, I think this is fine. Like being able to each turn either heal yourself, draw cards, or draw discard cards is pretty good. If you're doubling tokens in your token deck, that's pretty good. And if you just run artifact tokens anyways, that's pretty good. I'd probably toss in my deck if I have good artifacts in my deck and my commander makes artifact tokens. So, and last 2 here from Fomori Vault is a land. tap, add a colorist, but for 3, you can discard a card. Look at the top X cards of the library, where X is the number of artifacts you control, and put one of those cards in your hand, the rest in the bottom of the library in random order. This is seen playing standard, modern, CEDH, vintage, probably legacy at some point. If you're running good artifacts, like, it's just good. It's a good way to just, oh, I've got nothing better to do. On your turn, I'll pay 3, discard a card, and just look at, I've got 4 artifacts, I'm just going to look at the top 4 and go, oh, look, there's another card I want. Put it in my hand, rest in the bottom. Just great card advantage as a land, and card advantage in land form is great. And then Tarnation Vista is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped, and you choose a color. Add 1 mana of any color of the chosen color, and for 1 you can tap it. For each color among mono-colored permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. No formats using it. Commander's what's using this, and like, again, it's got a really cool art there too. I like both arts. The idea here, oh, that's like a cool different like view of it. Yeah, the idea of this is like, in a 5-color deck where you run a lot of mono-color permanents, this could tap for, like, pay 1, tap it, and get 4 color, which isn't bad. If you're running a deck like that, this could be useful there, in my opinion. And it's a 5-color deck, so you can choose the color you're missing right then. So that's my thoughts. Out of all these cards, there's a lot of good cards. I love these guys because I'm messing around with a modern deck. I love Collective Cage. But I think out of all of them, I think this is the most underrated guy. But I think the best out of the bunch is that's probably Famari Vault, honestly. Just a colorless card that allows you to have card advantage is just, in my opinion, too strong. Not too strong, but just like the right amount of strength to really push everything. So I'd give it to the Famari Vault. There's a lot of other reprints that were really good. None of them, I don't think any of these hit. Yeah, they don't hit Pioneer or Modern, so I'm not going to talk about the reprints. They were good ones. You can take a look at them yourself. But yeah, let me know your favorite new card from the big vault. The big score and then the vault. Yeah. Let me know down in the doobly-doo. Peace.